I appreciate it. And that's what the book's supposed to do. I mean, it again, different stories. If you want humorous stories, read The Night Weasel Caught a Big One. If you want a truly horrific story, read Alone in the Woods in a Deep Dark Night. If you want a more meditative story, read Death Comes to Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith. So though it's got a breadth to it. The stories in the book. So again, I think a lot of people can enjoy it, whether you like hardcore horror, whether you like more meditative horror, whether you like more humorous horror or speculative fiction. It's all in there.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, where we have great authors on from around the world, some of the nicest people you're ever going to meet, and some new books to fall in love with. You got some room on your bookshelf. I know you do. So we're going to add a few more to your bookshelf today with Edward here on the show. We're going to talk about his newest book and his journey as an author. Lots of great stuff. I'm really excited to have Edward here. Edward, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be on.
Excellent. Tell everybody where you are in this great, big, beautiful world of ours.
I am in central Michigan. The weather here is a perfect spring day. I'm looking outside, sunny and 70s, which we don't get very often in April. So after this podcast is over, I will probably go outside and do some yard work before the nasty weather rolls in tomorrow.
I love how good weather equals more work. That's great. I love that kind of payoff. That's great. It's nice to get outside, though.
It is.
Yeah, here in Canada, too, like we're trapped in here all winter. And yeah, finally got the windows cracked open and it's nice.
Yes.
You got fresh air and you're not using the furnace. You're not using the air conditioner yet. You're in that limbo stage. It's really kind of nice.
Beautiful.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It is.
For everyone else who doesn't understand that, yeah. It's a nice little break from the bills for like a month or so. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Edward, tell us a little bit about your journey as an author. Where did all this begin? I know you have an education background and you've done a lot of amazing things in your past. Why writing a book? Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. So I'll give you not the long story, but the medium length story. I mean, I've always been a writer. I started writing when I was 5 years old. I put out my first book of poetry at 5. Wrote my
bestseller, right? Bestseller.
Bestseller
At 5. Okay. Yeah.
At 5. Wrote my first short story when I was 10. And kept writing until I, hit puberty and testosterone kicked in and other things started looking more interesting, which affects most of the male population still. But then once I got into college, started writing again and really started writing more in my early 20s, short stories, speculative fiction, horror, science fiction, fantasy, and started sending them out and started collecting big boxes of rejections. And so kept doing this for a few years into my 20s, really felt I wanted to be a writer or call myself a writer. So, I mean, you can't call yourself a writer unless you're right, in my opinion. So I kept writing, and kept getting rejection letters. Finally, again, make another long story short, I decided I probably should do something with my life. And I figured I'd try my hand at going to medical school. And I did get into medical school. And after my first year, I thought, I'm not ready to give up writing yet. I want to give one more try till medicine really engulfs me and takes over everything in life. And so at the time, I was going to medical school at Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan. And at that time, East Michigan State University had the Clarion Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Workshop, which was and still is a 6-week workshop, very immersive, very in-depth, and was the workshop at the time if you wanted to write speculative fiction. And so I applied to it and got in. And many of my colleagues, a lot of mentors, counselors said, no, don't do that. You really should spend your first summer off of medical school doing volunteer work, being in a hospital, being in a clinic. It's going to look horrible if you go do this crazy literary speculative fiction stuff. And I said, yeah, thanks for the advice. I'm going anyway. And so I went. So for 6 weeks, I was at Clarion. I learned how to write. I learned how to write precisely. I learned how to write concisely. I learned how to edit ruthlessly. And 2 years after that, I had my first professional sale. And so been selling short stories ever since. Of course, in medicine, when you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, kind of takes a little bit of time. So I didn't write a lot, but wrote over the years. Fast forward to 2022, and I probably had sold about 25, 30 short stories, which is not a lot, but it's something. And I thought, some of these stories could really fit well, excuse me, into an anthology or into a short story collection. So I looked through them, and I had about a half dozen other short stories that were in various stages of finish. I thought those would probably fit too. So I put them all together into this collection called Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing. Started sending it out, and amazingly enough, Bain Books Press over in England liked it and said, "Hey, can we publish these short stories?" I said, "Absolutely." So last month it got published by Bain Books Press. So
wow. So how did that publisher find you?
I found them.
Oh, you found them. Okay, good.
Oh, right. So as an author, you're the one 99% of the time looking for publishers, and so went online, looked up small and medium press publishers for speculative fiction, found these folks, and so far it's been a wonderful journey with them. It really has. I'm very, very impressed.
Nice, excellent. We have authors listening to the show. They are new to writing, early days. Maybe they're 5 years old, ready to write. They're trying to figure out their voice, trying to figure out their path, and kind of how to get started. Any suggestions for someone as a new writer who's just trying to figure out where the start line begins, so they can find the finish line eventually? Where do we begin?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. And I like that you started with finding their own voice, and that's a hard thing to do, right?
Yeah.
I probably didn't find my own voice for years because you write like the authors you read, right? Bruce Sterling, Lucius Shepard, Stephen King for horror. I mean, we all of us that are doing speculative fiction, horror fiction, science fiction, read those folks and probably should still be reading those folks. But so it took me a few years to find my own voice. So now, hopefully, when somebody reads a story by Ed Rosick, they say, "Oh yeah, that's a Rosick story. It has that good salt. It has that feel." However, whatever my feelings of my story are. So find your own voice. Number two, to new authors, read everything, read every day. You might think, well, that's kind of funny. I should be writing. Well, you need to be writing, but you also need to read, and you need to read everything. If you're going to be a horror fiction writer, read Westerns. And again, you want to get that breadth. You want to expand your knowledge of how other writers are working. So I read everything. I mean, I love crime fiction. I think it's a great genre. The many writers in that genre write very concisely. I mean, they can write a 60, 70,000 word novel that I'll devour in a couple days because it's written so well.
Yeah.
So read a lot. Number three, you got to write. If you don't write, you're not a writer. You're a writer in your head, but you're not a writer. So write every day. At least try to write every day. Again, we have these other things called jobs and taxes and bills. I get that. Believe me, I lived that life for decades, and I still live it.
Yeah.
But you got to write every day. Write something, or close to every day. Write, "The cow jumped over the moon 500 times" if you can't think of anything. I think if just putting pen to paper, right? I'm old, but putting fingers to keyboard and getting something written is paramount. And once you start doing that, you'll get to the point where you almost need to write every day. I mean, if I'm not writing, I feel ornery. I can feel it. It's like I got to get something out. Yeah. So write every day. And then once you're writing and once you feel like you got something written well, think about sending stuff out. I mean, one of the great things about the internet, the internet, right? There's great things and bad things. One of the great things is that you now have the option of thousands of markets out there. So see what's out there and start sending things out. Another thing I would encourage new writers to think about is joining a writing group. I think that can be very helpful to have other writers read your stuff. I know it does for me. I'm in a writing group. There's just a few of us, but it really helps for me to have somebody else read it and in a non-judgmental but critical manner say, "Hey, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. Why don't you think about changing this?" and that's all great stuff. And I think as writers, we need that because we're so immersed in our story. Our stories are like our children, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you can see your child and they can be doing horrible things and you say, they're just kids. Where somebody else might say, man, you need to do something with that kid. So
Yeah.
same thing with stories. You need to have other eyes on it. So
Okay.
um, yeah, I think those are good starting points.
Nice. They all seem to be wrapped around a concept I heard somebody mention to dig the well before you're thirsty. So these are all things you can be doing in the process of writing before you get to the book. These are all behind the scenes. Dig the well,
Yep.
read, get knowledge, increase your vocabulary, understand what good looks like. What is it? What, you're talking about a book that reads fast. All these things are things you're going to learn by kind of picking up pieces from everyone around you. So dig that well.
Dig that well. I grabbed a couple books. One of the books I think all early writers should read is called, I'll show it to everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, it's called um, The Portable MFA in Creative Writing. It's an excellent book. It's by the New York Writers Workshop. I have no fiduciary interest in them. I wish I did. But it's a great book for early writers.
Okay.
It really lays out what a Master of Fine Arts program would do in book form. Rather than spending 35, 40 grand on MFA, you can spend, $20 on this. So get books like that. I mean, don't read every single book on writing. There's thousands of them, but get one that makes sense to you, that people recommend, that other writers who have been in the field a while recommend, and read it from cover to back and see what you get out of it.
We'll put a link in the show notes for that for people listening. They can go and grab a
Yeah,
copy of that as well. It's highly recommended. I love when authors bring tools and resources as well for the
yep.
audience. That's very kind of you to bring that
Oh,
up. I appreciate that.
I'm lucky.
Talk a little bit more about your publisher. I love when I find out about a great publisher doing great things to help people like you get your story out in the world. What When you think about publishing, what was daunting for you, like reaching out and approaching a publisher, and what were kind of your expectations, and how did this particular publisher meet your expectations?
Great question. So this isn't my first published book. It's probably
Yeah,
my let's see, fourth, fourth or fifth.
yeah,
Uh, but first short story collection. Um, so I've been in the rodeo for a little while in terms of publishing. I mean, I'm looking for some. I would encourage new writers or any writers when you're looking for a publisher, look for somebody who's going to be responsive to you. If you write them or email them or call them and they never get back, it doesn't work. Look for someone who's going to have short, couple page, 2, 3 page contracts. If you get a 20-page contract from a publisher, that doesn't bode well. I've gotten those. I've had publishers where they offer me a contract, they send me 20 pages. I say, nah, no thanks. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what half this stuff means, and I'm not going to hire a lawyer at $500 an hour to read it.
yeah.
Uh, their contract was short, concise. And they've been very responsible. Go online, look at their website, make sure their website uh, shows what they're telling you. And this website done, Beta Books Press, which was originally called Unveiling Nightmares. It's now evolved into Beta Books Press.
Hmm.
Has, man, I don't know, probably 20, 25 writers already,
Nice.
multiple books. So it's certainly growing. Krista Bainham, who's the owner publisher of Beta Books Press, is so far for me been incredible. I mean, when I write her, she writes back. When we've done Zoom calls, again, she's in England, so it's been like 1 a.m. for her when we've done it. So very responsive. So yeah, and she'll every month she'll put up all the sales for all the books on Beta Books Press to let you know exactly how your book's been selling. So very transparent, very upfront. I think those are very important things for any writers, whether you're a newbie or whether you've been doing it for 30 years. If everything's secretive, if they're not going to tell you things, if they don't respond, these are bad signs. I know this because it happened to me with my first novel, Deep Roots. Everything was great until the book was published. After the book was published, the publisher kind of went ghost on me. And that's a long, long story. We could spend hours talking about that. I eventually got some, maybe all the royalties. I'm still not sure. And I ended up having to get the rights to the book back because it wasn't working out. So that was a very unpleasant experience.
Hmm.
But I learned from it. I learned what I need from a publisher. I learned to be a little more, uh, not cynical. That's not the correct word. I need to be a little more aware of what the publisher was doing and how things were going. So
Yeah, it's good. It's good advice for
yeah,
the readers that are listening. They may never write a book, but they're here to find their next favorite author. Tell us about Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing. The title, I got to ask for it right off the bat. The title of the book. Explain, please. Come on.
sure. So the title of the book is because all the stories in the book, whether they're horror stories, whether they're science fiction, are sort of off kilter. They're in the line of some of my favorite TV shows when I was a kid: Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, Outer Limits. Right back in the '70s, growing up as a child watching those, all the stories were sort of set in our world, but not our world. It's a different world. It's like a different dimension, a different, just off kilter, phantasmagorical. And so I wanted a title that um, reflected that, right? Where the grass doesn't grow and vultures sing. I mean, vultures don't sing. Grass pretty much grows anywhere, but it's still our world, right? So that's really where the title came from. There's no story. Usually, short story collections, the title would be from a short story.
Right.
It's not in the book. I mean, it would make a great title, I think. I just
Yeah.
haven't found the story for it. So, um, like I say, I took 6 stories that have been previously written over the years. I think the oldest story is probably 15 years old.
Wow.
Uh, and then I took 6 stories that I had been writing and finished those out, polished them up, and put them in there. So there's 6 new, 6 old. I think it gives readers the opportunity to see what I'm about, see what kind of writing I do, and if they like it, great. If they don't, that's fine too. There's writers out there that everybody lauds, and I read the first 10 pages of the book and I say, yeah, no, it's not for me,
Hmm.
and that's okay. That's writing is an art. All art is subjective. And new writers need to take that to heart because they think, oh, people hate my stuff. Well, somebody might hate it. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Just as long as you love it and other people like it.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't resonate with it, that's just not your target reader. That's all. You're fine.
Absolutely.
There's so many people out there in the world that can read your book. Don't
Yeah.
worry about that. Right.
Mhm.
Is there a common thread that ties all the stories together at all?
I don't know if there's a common thread. The common thread is that they're all sort of off kilter. The common
Okay.
thread is that they're set in this world, but not set in this world. That it's our world, but not our world. So that's really the common thread. There are 3 stories in the book. See if I can pull the titles up. All Hail the
Yeah.
Melonhead. Uh, Night DJ caught a big one, and Old Man Wortman. All those 3 stories have the same characters. As a writer, sometimes you'll fall in love with characters, and if you're lucky enough, those characters will resonate so well that you can write multiple stories with them. And I've done that with these characters. I love writing about them. They're a blast. I have a novel that's semi-outlined with them. I have another 1 or 2 other short stories. Actually, another short story that's out for hopefully publication with them. So those are once readers read that, they'll see that those are connected, but everything else are different.
Okay. Who's your ideal reader? Who do you have in mind for this book?
Ideal readers are readers who enjoy horror and science fiction. That again, the authors I talked about earlier: Bruce Sterling, um, Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Christopher Buehlin, just speculative horror and science fiction, and they want short reads, right? That's a nice thing about short stories. I love reading novels. I love reading short stories. I love reading short stories because they're short, right? If I'm going to bed and I'm tired, but I want to read a story, I pick up a book of short stories, 10, 15 minutes, I can read a story, and then I can go to sleep. I don't have to get involved, think, oh man, now am I going to remember what happened tomorrow?
Yeah.
Whereas with a novel, right, you're more into it. So
Okay.
yeah,
What about the age range? Any?
age range is probably 16 and up.
Okay.
Wouldn't
Right.
want anybody younger than 16 reading this stuff.
Okay.
I mean, if you had a do a rating system in terms of Hollywood, they range from uh, uh, Death Calls on Mr. Jones, I think is that I would put that at PG,
Yeah.
all the way up to Alone in the Woods in the Deep Dark Night, which definitely would be a hard R. So
Okay. Okay. Well, it kind of gives people listening an idea, right? Who, if the book's not only for them, but who else they could also
Right.
send a copy to. So it's kind of nice to hear.
Right. My wife is not a horror reader. She does not like horror, but there's stories in there she's read and she's really enjoyed. And I've told her, okay, you can read this story, but really don't read this story because you
Oh, yeah.
really like it. So, people can pick and choose what they like.
Does your wife look at you and those stories that she doesn't like and go like,
She doesn't read those.
are you okay? Like, are you okay as a person to write this
She must
story?
think that. She's been married to me for
Okay,
years now. So.
good. Wow. Uh, so for the stories, when you write, kind of like where does the inspiration come from? You said some of these stories are older, some are new, but what's the seed for you? Do you get like an idea comes to you? Like how does a story start? Just kind of
Yeah,
big picture.
story starts usually with an idea. I mean, again, I'm a voracious reader as well as a writer, so I'm reading everything. I try not to read the news too much anymore because it just what I call doom porn, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything's a doom and gloom, and that's which is not true. Uh, but I mean, some one of the stories, uh, Covenant of the Ark, has to do with treatment of the elderly, so that comes into it.
Hmm.
Um, uh, let's see, Lachey, sort of the insanity of war. So stuff like that. Um, the three characters or the characters that I talked about in the three stories, that one came to me in a dream. That happens very rarely. I hear other writers say, "Oh yeah, I have a dream and I write it down. I write a story." For me, that I can count on one hand. That's probably happened in 30 years, but it happened with the Old Man Workman. I had this dream. I woke up and I thought, "Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea." I actually dreamed the first line, the first paragraph of the story. I, I I don't think I've ever done that. I wrote it down and I finished the story that day, and I'm not a fast writer. So that one came up super fast. That's an anomaly. And then I love the characters so much. I thought, oh, geez, these guys they can go anywhere. And so that's really what they've done. So yeah, it rained.
What's been the response from the book so far?
It's been slow. Again, it's the other thing new writers need to know is marketing is key, right? You can write Canadian novel, the great Canadian novel, and if you don't have good marketing, it's going to be hard to get out there. So you
Yeah.
got to you got to go on podcasts, you got to do things, you got to do social media, got to talk to your local TV station, you got to talk to your bookstores, you got to market. And so right now it's slow. I'm gonna actually, after you and I get done talking and I do some yard work for a couple hours, I'll probably come in and work on some more marketing ideas.
Okay. How important is it for you to get a review from a reader?
Very important. So very, very important. I implore all readers, please give reviews to the books you read on Amazon because again, Amazon is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. That's who's running things to a
Yeah.
degree. So absolutely, if you like it, give a good review. If you don't like it, please don't give a bad review.
Yeah.
That can really hurt things. So
So
um,
looking at your review on Amazon right now, I'm
I
seeing a 5-star review from Dory. And I'm going to read to you what she wrote so people listening can understand this too. This is the idea of a good review. 5-star review, great collection here from Dory. What an awesome short story collection. These 12 speculative fiction stories range from a meditation on death to monsters prowling in the mountains of Siberia to 4 high school friends catching a mermaid on the shores of Lake Michigan. That's interesting. Where the grass don't grow and vultures sing will keep all lovers of speculative fiction engrossed from beginning to end. So, Ed, to Dory, who left this great review for you on Amazon, she may listen to this, and then now you're responding to her review. What would you like to say to Dory?
appreciate it. That's what the book's supposed to do. I mean, it's again different stories. If you want humorous stories, read The Night Weasel Caught a Big One. If you want a truly horrific story, read Alone in the Woods in a Deep Dark Night. If you want a more meditative story, read Death Comes to Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith. So though it's got a breadth to it, the stories in the book. So again, I think a lot of people can enjoy it, whether you like hardcore horror, whether you like more meditative horror, whether you like more humorous horror or speculative fiction. It's all in there.
So there are mermaids in Lake Michigan? Come on, Ed.
There are in this book. Yeah, we
Wow.
think the boys think it might have came down from Lake Superior because there are Ojibwe legends about mermaids in Lake Superior.
Interesting.
So it just
Okay.
happened. It's happened to swim down into Lake Michigan.
So if you live around Lake Michigan, you might want to go for a walk. Go scan the lake, see if you see anything. You never know,
Absolutely.
right?
Have that iPhone out.
And bring the copy of the book with you and read it at Lake Michigan. They should be doing that. Sure.
Absolutely.
So how and where do you go from here as a writer? Like you talk about keep writing, keep working on projects. Do you have like a plan for future writings into the future, or like where do you see yourself going with this?
Yeah. So I have so many ideas, Dave. I'd have to live to be about 180 to finish everything. And while I would love to live to be 180, I don't think that's probably going to happen. So, seriously, I have a lot of books. I'm writing a book now on medical internship training during the first 6 months of the COVID pandemic.
Hmm.
It's a book I wrote, 30 years ago when I was doing my medical internship. Um, it's as a catharsis on how the brutality and the just the horror of doing an internship, working 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week and having people's lives in your hands. And then I'm throwing that now into dealing with COVID at the same time. So
Wow.
uh, I'm about 30,000 words into that. Hopefully I'll have that finished by the end of the summer. I'm about 30,000 words into a horror story called Wahila. Wahila is another Native American legend. It's sort of a wolf-like, bear-like monster. So that's set in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I have short stories out there. The novel that I told you, I referenced to earlier in this podcast, Deep Roots, which was my novel. Since I have the rights back to it, I'm still toying with the idea of doing a rewrite of that and republishing it. So I don't know, maybe that'll be next year. We'll see. So yeah.
You keep mentioning Michigan. Like, how important is it for you to capture your location, where you are, what you know, and bring that into your world as a writer? Like, why is that so important for you?
Yeah, well, I think that's important for all writers because you want to immerse the reader into your story. You want to immerse the reader into your universe. I grew up in downriver Detroit, moved all over the states, ended up back here in Michigan. And Michigan just got a great history. It's got I mean, we've had Native Americans here for millennia. Who knows how long? At least 10,000 years. It might be a lot longer.
Yeah.
So great history, great mythology, great legends. And I know the place. So one of the things we always tell young writers, write what you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be right about Michigan. I mean, you can know other places, but I'm just comfortable doing that. So one of my favorite writers is Joe Lansdale, and he's from East Texas. And a lot of his, not all of them, but a lot of his stories take place in East Texas. And you can feel it when you read Lansdale stories. You're in East Texas. So when people read my stories, say the night weasel caught a big one, I want them to be on the shores of Lake Michigan. I want them to feel, yep, we're here. This is what we're reading. Or Alone in the Woods in the Deep Dark Night, which takes place in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I want them to be there. And so I think I can do that because I've lived that. I've lived in the UP. I've gone fishing on the shores of Lake Michigan. So I've done all those things. I grew up in downriver Detroit, so I can write about the urban stuff. So I think it's real important for not just me, but I think for all writers.
It brings the reader into the story, right?
Absolutely. Then that's what you want, right? As a reader, and for me, as a reader, when I read a book, I want to be in that story, right? I want to be wherever it is, whether it's on the moons of Saturn, whether it's in the shining city of Toronto. I want to be there. Tell me about it. Make me be there.
Yeah. And I think that's hard if you've never been somewhere. So if I sat down and wrote a book about Rome, I've never been to Rome. I can Google it, I can YouTube it, but I've never walked the streets of Rome. And I think how had I have an opportunity to walk the streets of Rome and feel what it feels like to be there, what's the temperature like, what does the sea breezes feel like, any of that stuff, right, would influence what I write. But sitting in my bedroom here in Canada with no concept of what it's like to be in Rome, I can just guess. right? I
It's
like having feet on the ground. That's a good idea.
I do too. It's a challenge, but sometimes again, you have to use that imagination. You have to put yourself somewhere else because we can't be everywhere. I've been blessed in that I've walked on 5 out of the 7 continents of the world. So I've been to many places. I can talk with gravitas, if you will, about walking on the plains of Bolivia, about watching the sunrise over Machu Picchu, because I've been blessed. I've been there. I've seen all that stuff. But you don't have to do that. I mean, you just have to have a really, really good imagination to get there.
Nice. Excellent. So take us to your website, Ed, like as far as following your journey as a reader or as a fellow author. Where do we go to connect with you after this conversation? And then after that, I have a kind of a wrap-up question for us.
Sure. My website is www.edrosick, that's one word, edrosick.net. You can see where I am. I've been better at updating that on a regular basis. And readers can also get some free stuff. They can get free stories. In fact, right now there's an excerpt from Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing. So people can read an excerpt. If they like it, great. Please go buy the book. If you don't like it, that's cool too. See if you like it or not. They can also go to Bainham Books Press, which has some information on me, as well as a place to order the book. So you can order it off Bainham Books Press. You can order it off my website, or again, you can go to the big boy Amazon and order it right off there.
Nice. So Ed, as we wrap up, Ed, what is one of the best pieces of advice or quote or something related to authorship, not related to authorship, just life in general, something that becomes kind of your go-to? Because I'll give you an example. The one that I keep using lately is Theodore Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." And I'm like, that's like permission just to start. Like you don't need anything else. You got it, right? So I've been using that. It's just keep coming up in conversation over and over and over. Different places, different people. Is there anything that kind of been resonating with you lately that just kind of keeps coming out in conversation for you?
For specifically for writers, new writers, even writers that have been doing it a long time, write for yourself. And that might find counterintuitive because you say you need readers. You do, but you can't influence who's going to read your book or not. All you can do is write for yourself. I'll write for me. If what I write is good enough, if what I write for me, because every writer is their worst or hardest critic, if it resonates with me and it works with me, then excuse me, I'm good with it. So really write for yourself. Write for what you want to write. Don't chase fads. Oh, if the current fad is right now, the current fad is romantasy, romance and fantasy. I can't write romantasy. I can't do that. I'm not chasing that. Don't chase that. Write what you want to write. If you want to write a Western, then write a Western, even though almost everybody will say, no, Westerns aren't selling. So what? If that's what you want to write, do it. Write what you write for you.
So permission to be selfish as a writer and write what you want to write.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I like that. That's good advice. That's really good advice, Ed. Thank you so much for being here, Ed. Thank you for doing this. I know that you go on many different shows to talk about your books. I appreciate you making time to come on Living the Next Chapter, and would love to keep in touch with you in the future. As new projects come out, come back. We'll keep the seat warm and update people on what you're doing next.
Absolutely, Dave. No, thanks for having me. This has been great. Sorry, my voice is going. I guess I need more coffee.
There you go. Excellent. Go grab a cup of coffee out there to do some gardening now that we're all done. Ed, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Take care.
Excellent. Everybody, all the information for Ed in the show notes. As always, please go click all the links. Go grab a copy of that book as well, the Portable MFA. And as well, go grab copies of Ed's books. And like we heard today on the show, leave a great review. I'd love to hear your words, your thoughts about what he's written. The authors give us their words in a book. We give our words back as a review. It's kind of this thing that we do. So please leave a great review for Ed and think of someone else who will love these short stories. And if you live in Lake Michigan, go find the mermaid. You get 10 bonus points. So there you go. Ed, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Take care.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.